Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Audrey's Reading Area. Thank you guys for being here and enjoying me reading all these fun and exciting books to you guys, because I really do enjoy reading these books to you. Now, if you do enjoy them like I think you do, and even if you don't, please just hit subscribe. Then you can get all the notifications and that I have put in another one, and that you can just hit like and hit subscribe and hit share. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But the fun and exciting book that I'll be reading to you guys today is, bam, Amelia Earhart, an American flying pioneer. Amelia Earhart. Now, this book was written by Cynthia Benjamin and is illustrated by Greg Copeland. All right. So, this book talks about Amelia discovers flying. The alarm clock next to Amelia Earhart's narrow bed woke her up with a sharp clanging sound. It was only 5:30 in the morning. For an instant, she wanted to go back to sleep. "Stop being a baby, Amelia," she said to herself. "You have patients to take care of." Half an hour later, she was walking hurriedly in the brisk early morning air when she entered the hospital in Toronto, Canada. Amelia was ready to begin her workday as a nurse's aide. The Toronto hospital where Amelia worked in 1918 treated soldiers who had fought in World War I. The soldiers liked Amelia's outspoken, honest manner. Just a few months earlier, 21-year-old Amelia had been in school near Philadelphia. She had been eager to go on to college. Then she visited her younger sister, Muriel, a student in Toronto. When Amelia saw the wounded soldiers there, she wanted to help them. Within a month, Amelia left school to train as a nurse's aide. Did you guys know that about Amelia Earhart? She went to train as a nurse's aide. On one of her days off, Amelia went riding with her sister Muriel. A young woman marveled at the beautiful, crisp winter day. In the distance, Amelia could see an airfield. "Come on, Muriel," she said. "One of my former patients, Dan Baker, works there as a pilot now. I'd like to see how he's doing." Amelia began galloping down the hill. Muriel followed her. "What's the rush?" Muriel called. "There's something I have to show you at the airfield," answered Amelia. Dan Baker was pleased by Amelia's interest in the airplanes. Amelia marveled at their power and beauty. "You see, Muriel," she said, pointing to a small plane. "This is what I wanted to show you. Isn't it wonderful? Look how elegant the shape of the plane is." Muriel was surprised by her sister's words. "Do you remember seeing the airplanes at the Iowa State Fair? You weren't interested in them at all." "I was only 11, Amelia laughed. "Now I know better." That year, Amelia loved to spend her free time at the airfield near the Toronto hospital. Only soldiers could fly the planes. Still, she was eager to learn whatever she could about flying. One afternoon, Dan Baker took her on a tour of a plane. "You must find this pretty dull," he said. "Not at all," Amelia answered. "I only wish I could fly a plane. I'd especially like to fly a plane myself." Amelia learns to fly. Amelia's life changed again when World War I ended. She moved to Los Angeles, where her parents lived in a large house. At 23, she still wasn't sure what she wanted to do. However, she hadn't forgotten her interest in airplanes. More than anything, Amelia wanted to fly in a plane. Her father arranged it for her. Mr. Earhart paid $10 for a 10-minute flight not far from their home. Excitedly, Amelia entered the small airplane with the other passengers. That's interesting. One short plane ride will be enough for Amelia. Her father thought he was wrong. When the plane took off, Amelia's heart raced. When the plane took off, her heart raced. That means she was excited. Okay. Well, as they reached higher elevations, she looked down and saw miniatures of houses and trees. The roads looked like winding pieces of ribbon. In the distance, she could see the Pacific Ocean. I'm floating in a completely different world, she thought. From that moment on, she knew she had to fly. That night at dinner, Amelia told her parents what she wanted to do. Flying lessons are expensive, her father said. You must be practical. How will you afford it? Amelia wouldn't give up her dream. She got a job in her father's law office. Her salary would pay for her flying lessons. At night, she read books. I'm reading this book. Explaining how objects fly through the air. Ever since she was a little girl, Amelia had wanted to live her life her own way. If she wanted to fly planes, she would. Airplanes had left her starstruck. Oh, yeah. She's loving it. The next step was finding a teacher to give Amelia flying lessons. She decided to take lessons from Anita Snook, a 24-year-old pilot. Although the young women were almost the same age, Anita had been flying for years. She was one of the first women pilots ever. In addition to giving flying lessons to students, Anita took passengers on rides in her airplane. The two young women liked each other at once and became friends. At first, Amelia learned how to drive a plane on the ground. She didn't actually fly in the air for several weeks. Amelia was eager to learn everything she could, and she worked hard. Soon she was flying in the air. After months of taking lessons, she was ready to fly by herself. How exciting is that? By the time she was 25, Amelia kept a promise to herself. She bought her own small, bright yellow plane. She called it the Canary. What an awesome illustration. Flying across the Atlantic. Amelia flew as much as she could. To earn money to buy fuel for her airplane, she worked at different part-time jobs. Later, she became a social worker in Boston. Now, I didn't know that. She became a social worker in Boston. Then she was chosen to take part in an important flight. She would join a crew and become the first woman to fly in a plane across the Atlantic Ocean. The plane, called the Friendship, took off on June 17, 1928. Although Amelia was not allowed to fly the plane herself, she wrote information in the plane's record book. The flight across the Atlantic Ocean took many hours. Sometimes Amelia had time to look out the window at the clouds floating past. The sight was amazing. Almost 21 hours later, the Friendship landed in a bay near a small English village. The President of the United States sent the crew a telegram. Later, they took part in a parade in their honor in New York City. Amelia was now world famous. However, there was still something she wanted to do on her own. Can you guys guess what it was? You got it. She wanted to fly on her own. Amelia was proud that she had taken part in the flight of the Friendship. However, she gave the credit for this important flight to the pilot, Bill Stultz. Now it was time for her to be more than just a famous passenger. She wanted to reach a goal that she had set for herself. One morning, Amelia turned to her husband, G.P. Putnam. I'm going to fly across the Atlantic alone, George, she said. Oh, nothing would make me prouder, he answered. Aw. Amelia was never one to waste time. When she decided to do something, she worked quickly. On the evening of May 20, 1932, she took off on her trip across the Atlantic Ocean. Flying in the star-filled sky at night thrilled her. I cannot fail, she thought to herself. Just a few hours later, she was in trouble. First, an important instrument stopped working. Soon she flew into a horrible storm. Part of the plane shook violently. Flames shot out of the engine. Ice formed on the wings, and gasoline leaked from a fuel tank. Oh no. I'll bring the plane down as soon as I see land, thought Amelia. The next day, she landed in a pasture in a small town in Northern Ireland. She was the first woman to pilot a plane across the Atlantic Ocean. Amelia Earhart had flown 2,026 miles in 14 hours and 54 minutes. By crossing the Atlantic in the shortest time ever, she broke a world record. Later, Amelia was flown to London, where cheering crowds greeted her. Her husband met her in Paris. I did it, George, she said, grinning. I never doubted you would, he answered. The end. The end. Think and respond. There's some think and respond questions. If you guys want to hear it, you can stay and you'll hear me read it to you. If you want to just exit now, you can. Just hit stop or pause. But these questions make you think, and they're exciting. Question number 1, what does each chapter in this book describe? I didn't tell you about the chapters. Number 2, where in this book would you find how long it took Amelia Earhart to fly across the Atlantic Ocean? It kind of says it right here. Right here. Can you see it? Yeah. Why do you think the title of this book is Amelia Earhart, an American Flying Pioneer? Why do you think that's the title? Then, how do you know that Amelia achieved her goal? Good question. How is this book like another story you've read about a famous woman? And how is it different? Would you recommend this book to a friend? Why or why not? Well, that's it. It's the end of the book. I know we had a good time. I hope you had a good time listening. I know I had a good time reading it. Thank you so much for being here at Audrey's Reading Area. And don't forget to share and subscribe. And I will see you soon.